Hi, I'm here to talk to you about my professional disposition of learners. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is high expectations. I think high expectations are really important to have for your students. And without high expectations, your students are not going to achieve the levels of learning that they could learn. I have high expectations for my students, and it's something I'm really good at. I make relationships with my kids, and we set goals for their learning, and we work really hard on being a community and making sure that we're all striving to learn every day. If you ask my kids what their job is when they're at school, they'll tell you to grow their brains. Knowing the background of my students and knowing what cultures they come from and where they're coming from with their families socially is really important in my job. I work in a high needs school, and a lot of my kids have very different upbringings than I had. And it's really important that I understand where they're coming from so that I know how I can help them learn. I have been really fortunate to be able to have close relationships with some of our more diverse students and their families, and have learned a lot about some different cultures that I didn't know about before. I think it's really important as a teacher to be open to understanding the backgrounds your students are coming from and understanding what they're bringing into your classroom with perspective for their learning. I've really learned a lot from my kids, and I hope that they've really learned a lot from me too through our different diversities. I work really hard with my students to become problem solvers on their own. So if they have a problem with someone, sending another person a message is a really important part of solving that problem. That causes me to be an advocate for my students, to get them to understand that they do have a voice and they do have a way to let people know what they need. And finding that voice is really important to me. I want my kids to be able to stick up for themselves in a way that's appropriate, and I want them to be able to say, this is good for me or this isn't good for me. So we spend a lot of time learning how to send messages to one another and do it in a way that has kindness. Being a dedicated teacher takes more than just showing up for your contracted hours. You have to spend time reading professional books, and you have to spend time getting additional training, especially if you see that you need more help in an area that for some reason your students are just not getting the way you're teaching, or maybe you just are not that knowledgeable in that area. You need to be willing to go and say, I need to learn about this and I need to learn more about this so that I can show my students how to do this better. That's showing dedication to. An area that I need to work on is reflection on my practice of teaching. I'm very fortunate to work in a district that encourages this, and I've been a participant in classroom learning labs this last year, and I found them to be very beneficial to think about what I'm seeing and what I'm learning and reflecting on that. It's not something I'm super comfortable with yet, but I think it's very valuable for our students, and it's also very valuable for me as a teacher. I'm hopeful that our district will continue to encourage that reflection, but if they don't encourage it, I think it's an area that I need to seek out myself and go and watch colleagues and see what they're doing and see what I can do to improve my practice through watching their practice. Another area that I need to improve on and continue to work in is my honesty. I've never been one to sugarcoat things, and so I tend to say what I mean and mean what I say. And sometimes it comes across as brusque or too blunt, and people have been insulted by my message. And so I've been working really hard to soften that message and hopefully have my message better received. And so, an area that I need to work on within the honesty area is sending a message in a way that still shows compassion and still shows that I care about who I'm talking to and what I'm talking about without changing the message that I'm trying to give. So, I'm hopeful that I can continue to improve in that area.